I've been planning making this video on water crossings for quite a long time, and before I started making videos I've been taking photographs for the last 40 odd years, maybe a bit longer. And when I go through my photographs, there are lots and lots of photographs of water crossings and basically playing more than anything. But in a lot of cases you have to cross rivers and streams and even possibly the edges of lakes to get to where you want to go. So this is what this video is all about. I've had some bad experiences by being silly and basically not taking the time to do it properly. The first thing is you need to walk the river. Everyone tells you that, nobody wants to do it because it's a nuisance, but walk the river. In this case the river was very deep and a whole group of us turned around. People think driving through the water at speed and getting all the splashing is fun, but when your electrics get wet your car stops and then it becomes everyone else's problem to rescue you. So drive as slow as you can, don't go as fast as possible. The other thing is you need breathers on your diff. People don't even think about it. You've been driving, your vehicle's hot and you drive into cold water, it gets cold and it forms a suction, so it sucks water into the diff. Make sure you've got breathers and that they are high enough. Usually they're in the wheel arch, and like that you won't suck water into your diff. That's the last thing you want to do and it'll spoil your trip. In this case we had 3 vehicles and we decided, although it was a very long water crossing, probably over 100 meters, we decided we're going to do it. The first thing is you always unlock your door and open your window and take your seatbelt off, because if something goes wrong you need to get out. If the car gets flooded, often the electrics will stop working, so you can't open your window or your door and you drown. In this case I was driving near Murchison and I thought I saw a really nice wild camping spot. So you first check the river. It had been raining for 4 days at that stage, so you make sure that there are no big boulders that have been washed down. Even though there's a track on either side, it's no guarantee that the road is clear. So check you don't get hooked up on a boulder and damage your vehicle.
Like a bird on a tree.
After looking at some camping spots, I had to cross the river again, and this time I drove down the bank. We always travel alone and I stay on the river bank as long as possible so that it reduces the risk of dinging something in the river or getting flooded. So I drove down the river bank and crossed at the shortest possible crossing. Again, if you're traveling alone, it just reduces your risk. And the last thing you want to do is climb out the window and get wet and try and get everything sorted and try and get somebody to rescue you. So always think of that. Often you will see tracks on both sides of a river, and again we always tend to think someone's driven in and driven out. In the northern part of South Africa I did that. I got to a river, I saw tracks on the other side and I decided not to walk the river. I drove into the river, it was too deep, I got stuck, and apparently the tracks on the other side were from a rescue vehicle that pulled the other vehicle out. So I ended up with water in my car and my sleeping bags were wet and everything was wet. It's really no fun. This was my first clear day after 8 days of rain. I got to the Macaulay River. The river was about 50 centimeters deep and the river was flowing very fast in 2 channels, and I decided not to go. So you got to make the decision, is it worth the risk, isn't it? Anyway, I hope you've learned something, and again, the whole video really gets summed up with discretion is the better part of valor. If you're traveling alone, be careful, don't do silly things. But river crossing is a great fun, so enjoy it and let me know what you think. Cheers.